Hi guys, welcome to my first tutorial. My name is Miro and I'm going to show you how to create this Lego text buildup in After Effects using Element 3D. You can certainly do something similar in other 3D applications, which is probably easier for your workflow. But we're going to do it in AE for those who like to incorporate 3D into their comps directly. Alternatively, you can use Cineware and Cinema 4D, but for me I like Element 3D because it's fast and familiar. And since I only get to use Cinema 4D whenever I work on site, when I need 3D work and Cinema 4D Lite is all I have with After Effects, Element 3D is my go-to solution. It's a very powerful tool and it's efficient in certain situations. I talk more about that on my website and one of my articles there, so you can check that out in the link below. Before we get started, we need the 3D brick first, and to do that, I'll open up Cinema 4D and show you a quick modeled Lego brick that we will be using. I made this using Cinema 4D Lite, and you can download this model from my website. You can check that out at the link below. Alternatively, you can use your own model. You can just Google the dimensions of a Lego brick and use that as reference and build one using your preferred 3D software. Be aware though that Element 3D only uses Cinema 4D and OBJ file formats. When you have a 3D model ready, let's go back to After Effects and get started. To begin, we're going to make a new comp, and we can just hit this button right here. And we're going to name this composition blocks. 1920 by 1080, frame rate 23976, and 5 seconds should be good. Hit OK. The first thing we want to do is add a text layer, and to do that we're gonna click on this text layer tool or press Ctrl T or Command T on the Mac. Click on the screen and then let's just type blocks. Now I already have my font set to Arial and the weight is bold. Let's just bring back the kerning to 0. Have a small stroke here going on, and let's just turn that off for now and see how it really looks. So I chose Arial because of the volume of the font. It's very bold, very thick, but at the same time there's a lot of breathing room in between the letters. Let's just hide that layer for now. Next, we'll have to create a solid. To do that, I'm gonna right click here, go to New, Solid, make it comp size, press OK. I'm just gonna change that layer color real quick. Let's make that yellow. Let's add the Element 3D plugin here. Let's search for Element, drag it into the solid. If you don't have Element 3D plugin yet, I'll share a link in the description and you can check that out for yourselves. It's a very affordable plugin. I use it a lot. You can do a lot of things with it, and it's very highly recommended. Let's just name this solid Element. The first thing we want to do is go to Scene Setup and import our 3D file. So just head over to where your 3D file is, hit Open. I'm just going to click OK here. Next, I'll go ahead and add just one of the preset materials right here. Let's choose a white one. I'm also going to change the environment. Try to find something that's really detailed and it's going to look good for reflections. I'm gonna hit OK. So there we see our brick for now. And I'm gonna head over to group 1. And I'm just going to rotate our particle first. Go to particle look, particle rotation. And then let's just change the X value to 90. So it's facing us. Next, in the particle replicator, I'm gonna choose the replicator shape and choose the layer grid. We're choosing the layer grid because we need access to this custom layer right here, which we're going to choose our text layer in. You have to remember to put that block text in this custom layer and not in the main custom layers tab right here. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to increase the amount of our blocks here in the grid X and Y. So I'm just going to change this to 50 and I'm going to change this to 12. So now we can totally see the words block right here. You can totally see that it's working, but our block is too big. So let's just head over to the particle look and decrease our particle size from 10 to 1. Yeah, everything's looking good. Everything seems to be working, but we see there's a lot of gaps in between. So I'm just going to increase our grid X, maybe change that to 54, and find a nice sweet spot. Just keep increasing it until you're pretty happy with the spacing and the number of blocks and generally how it looks. I'm pretty happy with how this looks already, but to fine tune it, we can always change the scale here, the X and Y values here, or adjust the kerning of our text. So let's try adjusting the kerning of our text and see where we go from there. Let's just make it a little bit closer, but not enough that the letters are trying to connect to each other. I like how this O and C look, so let's keep that. Let's also bring down the Y scale a little bit, 0.98, just to close those gaps. Maybe the X scale too, just a little bit. Once you're happy with how your text looks and the number of bricks that you have there, we can go ahead and go back to scene setup for now. We could have done this at the beginning, but I didn't want to confuse you with the groupings. So first of all, let's just take this brick out of the group folder. We can go ahead and delete this group folder right here. Click this drop down right here and then press Shift and then click on 2 to make it available for both groups 1 and 2. Hit OK. Now we have that group 2 with just a single block right here. We can just go ahead and go to group 1, group utilities, copy that, and then paste it in group 2. So we're going to have the same thing with group 1 and group 2. But the thing with group 2 is we can't see anything. That's because we have to set the custom layer back to that text layer. And that should be good. Let's first add the camera so we can see this block text from a different angle. I'm just going to right click here, select new, camera. I'm just going to do a 2-node camera with a 24mm preset, hit OK. Press C until you get into this rotating camera icon thing. And just adjust it a little bit so we can see the bottom. Move that a little bit. That should be good for now. Let's go back to our element layer. And let's go to animation engine and start doing something with this. Let's check enable. For the group selection, I actually want to start with group 2 and finish my group 1. The reason I want to start group to be group 2 and the finish group to be group 1 is I want my end look to be my controller. So for group 1, I'm going to go to group utilities and create a group null. And let's just name that group null blocks 1. Let's just make sure to enable group 1. We're not going to see group 1 because our animation value is at 0%. So we can just go ahead and change group 2 to what we want it to look at the beginning. So we're going to go over to our particle replicator, go all the way down to replicator effects, and let's change the scatter, the Z scatter actually, to maybe 960. Let's spread it out Let's spread it out a lot, but I think that's too much. 540, too much. Oh man. I guess that's a lot. Let's just do let's just do 25. Actually, let's do 50. So we're in group 2 still, and the position we want it to start somewhere here. Just make sure that these bricks right here kind of pass the 0 position right here. We have to make sure that it's going to pass here so nothing's like static or anything. So let's just do negative 960 maybe a little bit more, negative 1080. That should be fine. Let's go back to our animation engine and set a keyframe for our animation, 0, and then maybe go to 3 seconds and then pull that back to 100. You can generally have this animate however you want, but for me, let's change the animation type from directional to uniform. I also want to decrease the smoothness, and let's increase our randomness to maybe 50. And that's just gonna have some particles settle in. Make this 15. When you bring down the smoothness, some of the blocks are going to be really late to the game. So yeah, I think I'm very happy with that. Let's just add some small rotation too. So let's go to our particle look, particle rotation, and then let's just change the rotation random to maybe something like 60, just to have some small rotation at the beginning. To avoid having some of the bricks rotating late, let's go back to our animation engine, go to our dual animation mode, pick random, make it even more random, and in the time delay, I'm gonna change my rotation duration to 25. This just makes sure that the bricks are already rotated properly before they start to settle. So there's your first layer. Let's change this to uniform. Let's bring up the smoothness a little bit, 25. Just so we don't have anything too stagnant at the beginning. Once you're happy with your animation, we can go ahead and duplicate this element plugin. So I'm just going to press Control D or Command D on a Mac. Let's just hide that first element layer right here. Let's go to the scene setup of this element 2 layer. I'm just going to rename this material white into red and change the color right here. I will also go ahead and right click this and click on duplicate all. Change the material to blue. Hit OK. And then hit OK again to go back. That immediately changes our block text right here. Of course, you can add as many colors as you want, but we'll just do 2 colors for now. I'm also going to make another controller for this. So I'm going to head over to group 1, since that's our end of our animation, and hit create and name this blocks 2 underscore 2. So we want to start this animation differently. So we'll go to the element 2, group 2, particle replicator. Instead of having a negative Z value here for our position, I'm actually going to do a positive one. Let's do 720. So it starts at the back. And I'm just going to scatter the X a little bit. Let's do 5, not too much. And let's check our animation. That's looking pretty good. So for our third layer, I'm just going to duplicate this element 2 again. So Control D or Command D on a Mac. Element 3, let's just hide this element 2 for now. I'm going to create another controller for this and name that blocks underscore 3. Let's go ahead and parent these two things first to our blocks 1 controller, and I'm just going to hit P. Next, we're going to do a small expression. I'm just going to press on Alt and click on the position of the blocks 3. And we're just going to add equals, space, bracket, 0, 0, and I'm going to pick whip the Z value of blocks 2, and then times 2. That's just going to give me twice the value of the Z position of blocks 2. Let's go back to our element 3D layer and turn on all our element 3D plugins. The first one and the second one, we have to set the render mode to unified, so we can see all of these plugins in effect. I'm just going to go into the element 3 and go to the scene setup and change the colors real quick. Let's name this yellow. And then let's name this green. Green. And let's just duplicate all and add another color right here. Let's do perp. Hit OK. Hit OK to go back. So now, since all of these layers are in the same space, let's just go and pick our Blocks 2 controller, hit P, and then bring this back. And with our expression, it's just going to change that Blocks 3 back to. Of course, you can just do it manually, but if you're going to deal with a lot of movement and animation and more layers, and you want to change the size and everything, having this small expression would help in the long run. Let's just see how that is. Let's move the camera a little bit. See the spacing. Let's bring that down. You almost want to see a little gap just so the ambient occlusion would work really well on it. We can also see that groups 2 and 3 are starting in the same position. So let's just go ahead and adjust the element 3, group 2, and move that back a little bit more. 1080 maybe. Let's also scatter it a little bit more. And let's check out what we have. I'm gonna go ahead and start animating this camera and get back to you after that. I'm gonna bring this group 2 of element 1 just a little bit closer to begin. I'm just gonna go ahead and adjust the timing of the element 3D animations. Once you're happy with your animation, let's just make this a little bit more pretty. Just go to full res, click on element. All of your render settings are going to be in the element 3 or the last element plugin that you have. So let's just go there, go to render settings. I'm gonna pick ambient occlusion, turn that on, bump that up, maybe a bit more, 9.6. Yeah, make it really dark. I'm gonna increase the sampling to make it look nice. I'm also gonna add some more lighting. So let's just go to lighting, add lighting. I'm just gonna pick cinema. Let's rotate that to get a better look. Nice. For the physical environment, I'm gonna increase this a little bit to see more of our reflections going on. In the output, I'm also gonna turn up super sampling, just so it's a cleaner and nicer look. I'm just gonna play around with the ambient occlusion a little bit more. Change that to 12, make it really nice and contrasty. Let's go ahead and add a gradient background. So I'm just gonna grab a solid, bring that down here, change the color, press enter, name that BG, and I'm just gonna add a quick 4-color gradient at the back. Of course, you can do whatever you want. I just always love using 4-color gradient. Why not, you know? Beats ramp any day. Let's just move this a little bit. Last thing we want to do is maybe turn on motion blur. Just make sure in the element 3D that you have your motion blur settings on to comp settings, or just make sure it's on. And let's hit render and see what we got. So there you go, guys. That's the basic setup for creating a Lego text buildup in After Effects using Element 3D. You can certainly do more with this with some tweaks. You can add more bricks, add more layers, make some different animations, change the type of brick or 3D element to use, change the particle order and randomness. You can try to get as much out of Element 3D as you want to with render settings and lighting and everything. I'm pretty sure this is easier in MoGraph, and you can do a lot more with that too. But Element 3D is just fast and looks great all around, and as I said, it's pretty convenient as you're just inside of After Effects. I hope you guys liked this tutorial. It's my first one, so if you liked it, please hit that like button. I'm hoping to do more tutorials in the future as well, so hit the subscribe button if you want to see more. But until next time, this is Miro. Peace out.